Hey, welcome back. If you're watching this video on the Triarius channel, you're probably going through some kind of personal crisis, maybe a divorce or separation, maybe a lawsuit of some kind, maybe some other personal tragedy that's causing you to not feel yourself and not function properly. If you were raised like I was to be tough, then you suck it up, take it on the chin and do what you got to do. Here's the thing. You've probably never believed you'd be divorced. Probably never believed you'd ever get sued because you're a man of principle. So when the unthinkable happens and your world starts crumbling around you, you can't make any sense of it and you just don't know what to do and where to turn and what action to take. Which sucks because you're a man of responsibility. So you start thinking and overthinking. You start losing sleep, staring at the ceiling all night, barely squeezing out an hour or two, but you still go to work every day. You give 100% to the people that rely on you because that's how you were raised. And then the wheels fall off. That's basically my story. I eventually realized I needed help, so I went to a doctor and filled out some questionnaires, and he diagnosed me with situational depression, which is basically a temporary depression based on some current set of circumstances, as opposed to a brain chemistry defect or some other genetic consideration. He prescribed me with some antidepressants, in my case citalopram, and basically told me to come back in a month or so for a review. So there were several problems with this scenario. Firstly, most antidepressants take at least 5 weeks or so to start having a noticeable effect, and in the meantime they can actually cause quite a number of significant and in some cases sinister side effects. So 1 month without any observation, reporting or review is unacceptable. Hopefully this video will better prepare you for that first meeting with your GP and give you some idea of what to expect and what questions to ask. Okay, so before we go any further, I'd like you to visit our website www.triariusproject.com, and in the resources section download a couple of those mental health questionnaires that I've got loaded for you. The keys are on there, so take those questionnaires with you and go to see your doctor. They're best qualified to interpret that information and give you the next best course of action. It is important to note that not all cases of depression require medication, and many people get benefit from dietary changes, lifestyle factors and even supplements. So I'll be posting a video on alternative methods of depression management in the coming weeks. However, moderate to severe depression does benefit significantly from pharmaceutical interventions, so please do consider that. And with that in mind, I wanted to give you a bit of a primer on antidepressants so that you're better armed to discuss these matters with your doctor. There are a number of classes of antidepressants that can be prescribed by your doctor, but the two most common classes are the tricyclic antidepressants, which have been around since the 1950s, and the much more common recent addition to that family of the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs to be short. The tricyclic antidepressants have been around much longer and have traditionally been the more common. However, they are much more prone to side effects, and those can be quite more significant, and so they've generally fallen into second line of prescription, and most people today are prescribed the SSRI group of antidepressants. Because tricyclics can have a tendency to make you a bit sleepy, doctors generally start with a small dose and then incrementally increase the dosage over time whilst observing for any side effects you might have. And these more common ones are drowsiness, difficulty urinating, dizziness when standing up due to sudden blood pressure changes, dry mouth, blurred vision, constipation and sweating, especially at night. Palpitations, changes in sexual function, in other words, things like reduced libido, difficulty achieving orgasm, and even problems ejaculating. Changes in appetite are very common in tricyclic antidepressants, which often lead to weight gain or even weight loss. It's important to note that not all tricyclic antidepressants will give you those symptoms, so your doctor may change one for the other depending on the circumstances. You should also avoid taking alcohol whilst on tricyclic antidepressants because they can increase the sedative effects of alcohol as well as medication, so they can make you quite drowsy. For the first week or two at least, you should refrain from driving or operating heavy machinery until you determine what your responses are, and you can go from there under your doctor's guidance. Another important consideration for people on tricyclic antidepressants is that they should be avoided in anyone that has heart problems, prostate enlargement, glaucoma, thyroid problems, diabetes, liver damage, epilepsy or a history of seizures, or even a history of head injuries, because they can exacerbate that illness. They can also affect other medication that you've been prescribed for those illnesses. I mention this because not all doctors go through a comprehensive enough history, so I do believe you should be aware of those in case you don't get asked by your doctor. Some other medicines that can be influenced by antidepressants are other antidepressants, because people are often given multiple pharmaceuticals for this, but also lithium for ADHD type conditions, heart medications, because some heart problems can be affected by it, and certain medications for sleep disturbances. So make sure you tell your doctor any other things that you've been on recently. The newer SSRI group of antidepressants are slowly replacing the tricyclic group because they do tend to have far fewer side effects. You can also wean off them with far less addictiveness than with the previous group. So they are the pharmaceutical of choice nowadays for most medical practitioners. However, it's important to note that you shouldn't be weaning yourself off without medical supervision, nor should you go cold turkey, because the effects can be quite profound and actually very, very dangerous. So the mechanism of action of SSRIs is still not very well understood because of its effect on brain chemistry directly, particularly the brain neurotransmitter serotonin. One of the things we do know about serotonin is that it does have an influence on mood, emotions and sleep. So SSRIs block or inhibit the reuptake or reabsorption of serotonin in the brain. SSRIs are also used to influence anxiety disorders such as PTSD, panic attacks and obsessive compulsive disorder. Because a lot of people experience anxiety at the same time as depression, it's often quite helpful to use SSRIs when managing both conditions. Taking SSRIs is not without its side effects though, but they tend to be far less than that of tricyclics. So examples of side effects on SSRIs also include nausea and loss of appetite, diarrhea, headaches, blurred vision, dry mouth just like tricyclics, and also decreased libido, poor erections and failure to achieve orgasm. Most of these side effects do decrease over time with SSRIs, but it is important to keep in touch with your doctor and keep them updated on how you're progressing. One very important side effect that really does need to be brought up, especially with SSRIs, is the increased risk of suicidal thoughts, behavior and tendencies. So the effects of this does decrease over the course of 5 to 6 weeks, and if you do experience any of those thoughts, do call your doctor straight away. Just like with the tricyclic antidepressants, SSRIs also can interact with other medications, so it's important to tell your doctor if you've been taking any other antidepressant, even if it's a natural one like St. John's wort, because they can interfere with the action of them. If you're taking any blood thinning drugs like warfarin or heparin, if you're taking any aspirin as well, but also some medications for anxiety such as sumatriptan or imigran, as well as tranquilizer drugs like tramadol. Some SSRIs like fluvoxamine can also exacerbate the effects of caffeine, so you should take care not to drink coffee or take energy drinks during that time. Alcohol is also a consideration, especially in the early phase of treatment, so try not to be drinking any alcohol because it might influence the effect of the medication. So hopefully this video has given you a little bit of insight into this really important topic. So as always, please leave your comments below, share your experiences, and let's help other men avoid the really serious side effects of depression and anxiety when they're going through a real rough patch in life. And as always, remember to walk tall. Cheerio.